Hey, welcome back. Thanks for tuning in to another video. I just came back from work. I look awful, but we have a randomly beautiful day with highs close to the 80s before things turn pretty chilly this weekend. So I wanted to take advantage and show off part of the garden. So I just kind of wanted to quickly show what I'm doing on the back porch here to transition into fall in this little corner over here. So those of you who've been watching my videos all summer have been following my chives that have just really taken off in this container. I've cut them back several times. I just cut them back again last week, gave them a good haircut. They're already kind of coming back. The lemon thyme, when I planted it in the beginning of spring, it was just a little small plant and it's really filled out really nicely here. One thing that I could do is pop some annuals back here. That's something that's on the wish list. And then I did buy a couple of annuals just to transition into fall. So this is a basket of super bells. I got this when we went pumpkin picking. They had like a big farm market and they were selling a bunch of plants. This does great in full to part sun. And I'm assuming because they were selling them this time of year that they can handle a little bit of colder weather. And yeah, it says it's hardy to 30 degrees. Until our first frost, these super bells should provide some color here on the back porch, and they've been doing really well. We have been getting a lot of rain, so I really haven't had to do much, and the weather's been not too hot, not too cold. This is like a cute basket that we used one year to give my daughter Easter presents, and ever since then it's become a planter outside. And then in this pot I just put some ornamental pepper. I've never really done ornamental pepper before, but I know it's kind of a standard for this time of year. I really liked this one because it kind of had multicolored little peppers throughout, so I thought that was kind of unique. And this should also survive as the weather transitions here. So it says it's hardy. It doesn't say, but I know that ornamental peppers usually last later in the season and don't mind when the temperatures start to dip a little bit. So that's just what I've got going on in this corner back here. Yeah, and this is just like the most perfect, beautiful day to show it off. And here's just a quick view of the overall backyard at the moment. Hey everyone, so for the second part of this video, what we're going to be doing today is planting a container with some tulip bulbs. Now we're planting it now in mid-October, and then it will basically sit and rest until the spring. Tulips need a good long period of cold for their bulbs to activate or whatever it is that they do. So in the spring we can expect a beautiful show. And the reason that I am doing these tulips in a container is because I was inspired by a lot of photos that I saw coming from British gardens where what they did is basically in a lot of terracotta pots and a lot of galvanized pots, basically any kind of pot you can think of, they have these really colorful displays of these pots just packed with tulips and sometimes other flowers like irises, but they just look absolutely stunning, especially when grouped together. I'm only doing one container. I'm not aiming to do several. I kind of want to see how it goes. If it goes well this coming spring, maybe I'll try again and do some more in future springs, but I definitely wanted to do at least one because I love the way that it looks. I did also buy some other types of bulbs besides tulips. However, I'm holding off on planting those for a couple more weeks. I'm going to wait until we get closer to the end of October when the ground is a little bit cooler, but I'm a little bit impatient and want to play around with some bulbs, and I think I can get this container started. And because it is not in the ground, I do have a little bit more control over its climate and everything like that. So the tulips that I opted for, because my container is going to be white, I decided to go for an all white look. I thought that would be really dramatic. So I actually have two different kinds of tulips here. These are Katharina tulips. I loved that kind of egg-like look. I thought they were really pretty. When I went to the store, there were all the bulbs that they had in these shelves, and these ones just spoke to me. And then I also got these Tulipa white prints. These were actually a little bit more inexpensive, and I got many more bulbs in the package. And these specifically have like a container friendly symbol on them. So these don't, but I'm gonna try it out anyway. I'm gonna see if I have a couple extra. I'm gonna try to pop a couple of these in the ground too, just to play around and see how they do. So like I said, this is gonna be my container. It's just a 5-gallon bucket. Excuse me. It's kind of dirty because I've tried to plant things in this bucket in the past. It was full of dirt, which I emptied out into my raised beds. I think everything was unsuccessful because this had no drainage holes. So basically, whenever it would rain, this would just fill with water and just become very soupy. So I think the secret to success with this is going to be some drainage holes. So I have a drill. And this is not a drilling drill bit, but we're going to try to make it work anyway. Okay. Okay, so now I have 3 drainage holes in the bottom of my container, so we will not have standing stagnant water. Put my drill to the side, and when I was at Primex, my favorite local garden store, I kind of asked for advice, and one of the people who works there, actually, he said after graduating college, he went and spent 6 months in the Netherlands, so he knows a little bit about bulbs. And he said that tulips really like alkaline soil, and the one thing that really gets tulip bulbs is soil that has a lot of peat in it. So he said you've got to use soil that's peat free. So I picked up this soil. This is seed starting mix, but they said it'll be fine, and it's specifically peat free. So it looks like I'm probably going to need this entire bag for this bucket. Yep, that was like the perfect amount. He also suggested that I put in something like this grit to help with the drainage. What I'm going to do is put it in and then just kind of mix it in with my hands. This is 5 pounds of traction grit. This is, again, just to kind of enhance the drainage. So tulips are native to the Middle East, which is a very dry and sandy climate. And what he explained to me is the reason that tulips are perennial in the Middle East is that throughout the summer, it's very dry there. So the bulbs can successfully stay in the ground. The problem is that here in Pennsylvania, with all of our rain and moisture and humidity, usually tulip bulbs that are kept in the ground over the summer, they tend to rot. And he said if you really want to do it right, like what they used to do in the Netherlands, is you've got to dig up tulip bulbs and you have to kind of keep them in a climate controlled greenhouse where there are fans going, and you're really making sure that there is no moisture collecting on them. So he said really in our area, tulip bulbs, it's best if you don't try to look at them as a perennial planting and just get fresh new bulbs every year. I haven't decided if, because these are going to be in a container, it might actually be a little bit easier for me that once they're done blooming and have had their show, for me to actually dig them up, take them out, clean them, store them, and then use them again for the next year. That's definitely something that I could do. It just kind of depends come next spring how much energy and effort I want to put into it, how much I care about saving these particular bulbs, or if I want to try, like a different color or something next year. And also, like, if they even come up, like, is my container experiment going to even be successful? So those are all considerations. So okay, I think that's pretty well distributed at this point. Okay, so now we've got our soil kind of done, and then what I'm gonna do is take some of the soil out again, because I'm going to actually do 2 layers of bulbs. I saw this technique in a YouTube video. Apparently this is how you get that really super full look in a container. So that is what I'm gonna do. So I'm gonna take some of this dirt, and what I'm trying to do is get to a point where I'll be about 6 inches deep into the pot, because my first layer of tulips is going to be 6 inches deep. I do already have some daffodils in the ground in my shed garden, the garden right in front of my shed, which I put in last fall. They came up this past spring, and they did great. I'm actually kind of hoping that, because they do kind of multiply over the years, so I'm hoping this coming spring they will have multiplied a little bit, and I'll have more daffodils than I did last year. Okay, so now it's about 6 inches deep, 6-inch deep to the top of the soil. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna start with the white Prince tulips, and what you do is just kind of place these, and you want to stay away from the edge if you can, and you also want to place them flat side down, pointy side up. So I'm just gonna snuggle these into the dirt. Let me bring the camera over. Let me bring the camera over so I can show you what I'm doing. I'm just snuggling them into the dirt, and container planting is different from ground planting. If we were planting these directly in the ground, we would definitely plant these further apart, but since we are doing a container, we're really going to pack them in closely and tightly, as much as possible without them actually touching. And I realize I'm speaking very much like I'm an expert. I am not at all. This is my first year trying something like this. What I'm kind of relaying here is what I learned from reading various articles, and also going to YouTube Academy. So don't count, basically this is not tried and tested firsthand, so just giving you that caveat. So I think that's good for this first layer. All right, so now that I've planted my first layer, I'm gonna go ahead and put about 3 inches of soil on top of these. Sleep tight little bulbs, happy growing. Okay, so now I have, now I'm about 3 inches from the surface of the pot. So now I'm gonna go ahead and do another layer. So I have 4 bulbs left of the white prints. I'm gonna do these more on the outer perimeter. Now I'm gonna go ahead and place some of these Katharina tulips. So the white prints will actually come up a little bit earlier. Apparently they will come up in March, April time frame, where the Katharina, it says late spring. So using this variety might even actually help like extend the life of this container, using the 2 different varieties. I mean, that was not intentional on my part. So these are the Katharina whites, and I'm just gonna go ahead and place these into the soil. Katharina whites are definitely bigger. So you might be wondering, like, how does that work? 2 layers of tulips, like how is that bottom layer of tulips going to make it? And the answer, at least according to the YouTube video that I watched, is that they will find their way up around each other. And again, that's how you kind of really guarantee that really like full look. Okay, so I have a layer here. I'm debating if I should try to like sneak a couple more in here, or if I should be satisfied with this. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I have 8 in the top layer and probably a similar number in the bottom, so I think I'm happy with that. So now I'm going to go ahead and cover the 3-inch layer with soil as well. Okay, and this container is now nice and ready. So what my plan is for this is I'm actually going to be keeping it in the shed over the winter, because then it will be protected from the constant freeze thaw cycles that we have throughout the winter. Everything that I read kind of said that you want to keep containers like this protected from the elements. They don't necessarily have to be indoors. It even says like you can put it next to a shed wall or like close to the foundation of the house, but you want to provide it some protection from the elements. And you also want to control how much like water is getting into it. You actually just want to water it like very little, and then keep it relatively, keep the moisture levels low to have successful tulips. So today is a beautiful day. In a few hours here, we're expected to have a thunderstorm. So what I'm thinking is I'm not going to water this right now, and I'm going to leave it out and let it get kind of drenched in that thunderstorm, and then let it kind of dry out again, because then we have our temperatures going down into like the 40s tonight. So let this thunderstorm kind of drench the bucket. I don't know when I want to put it in the shed, because I think the sunlight helps the bulbs, and the shed has 2 small windows that are facing away from where the sun rises. So once it is in the shed, it's not going to get a lot of sun, which is a little bit of a concern that I have. But I think what I'm going to at least do for now is keep it out. The other concern I have is that apparently squirrels love bulbs. So another reason I want to get them in the shed as soon as possible is so that the squirrels can't dig up all these bulbs and eat them. I've been seeing a lot of squirrels running around our backyard lately, and I do see them digging in my different containers and in my backyard, planting their seeds and probably looking for other things. So that's another reason I don't really want to keep this container out and exposed. One thing that I would have probably done differently as well. And I kind of thought about it as I was driving away from the garden center, and it was a little too far to turn around, is I would have purchased something like pansies or something to put on top of this so that this container could have some visual interest and some plant life in it through the fall as well, because right now it's just a bucket of dirt and is not really much to look at until next spring. Hey, so my phone died while I was filming yesterday, but that's okay because I was pretty much done potting up the tulip bulbs. We did have a very light, mild thunderstorm yesterday afternoon into the night, which gave the container a nice drench, and I can feel it. It's a little bit damp, but not super wet, so hopefully that soil composition with the grit is helping to keep the moisture level low overall. I do have it right here, right next to our back door, because I don't have any kind of like mesh cover to put on top of it to protect from squirrels. I'm hoping at least keeping it close to our back door. It would take like a really brave squirrel to come up all the way here where there's usually a lot of movement and noise. I'm going to keep this outside for now. I'm going to try to keep it outside so it's exposed to sunlight as late into the fall as I can, and then I will move it into the shed. Thank you so much for watching this week's video. It was a little bit of a longer one. Let me know if it was too long, and I'll try to keep them more concise in future weeks, and I will see you next week. Bye everyone.